why am I doing this? Well, there's like a structural analysis bit to this, where there's basic. So first of all, I think there are a couple of pipelines we have to acknowledge. There are multiple parallel pipelines that we have to look at, we have to analyze, we have to find out what's going on. The first and largest of them, by far, is the retard to Nazi pipeline. Adin Ross is unimaginably stupid. We've talked about a lot of people who are just plain dumb before, but he, like, there's always, there's no floor to this, right? Where it is incredible the extent to which, he outpaces the competition on this particular one. He makes Dave Rubin look like a fucking brain genius. And I'm not joking when I say that. I genuinely think that if you put Dave Rubin and Adin Ross in a room, like, comparatively speaking, Dave Rubin would come across as like a remarkably sensible and intelligent guy, which, the competitions we play, right? So obviously this is prime Nazi bait. I think it's interesting how once again, this keeps being demonstrated like over and over and over and over and over again, how basically every time a social media platform that advertises itself as being a refuge for people who are being excised from TOS, from other social media platforms, instantly turns into Nazi bait. I think it's interesting how Adin Ross has portrayed himself as kind of like a casual, like, yes man adjacent, sort of like just like lapping at Andrew Tate's ass sweat for a while. And the nanosecond he's off of Twitch with Twitch's term of service, he's just openly palling around with every Nazi he can, Like immediately, with no delay. It's like, don't have to pretend anymore. We're off Twitch. We're now we're just like every Nazi we can find. We are now just completely, this is 100% we're all in the same bathtub together now, no time at all. And I think it's kind of funny that Hitler's strongest soldier is a Jewish guy, I guess, this seems to keep happening. I don't know. Or to whatever extent Adin Ross claims he's Jewish. Obviously, I don't really care about blood libeling, or sorry, not blood libeling. What is it called? Blood testing? What's the thing they do for Native Americans? Blood quantuming. That's it. Blood quantuming that out. Adin Ross will like jump back and forth between like palling around with Nazis and complaining that other people are discriminating against him for being Jewish. So he does the constant, like, the same thing that Nick Fuentes does by like saying he's a Afro-Latino guy as like a meme. Not that it really contributes that much to discourse. It's not like it actually affects any of the stuff that gets talked about. But yeah, this seems like this is going to be kind of like the modern wave of alt-right attention. There's always like, fascism is naturally idiosyncratic, which means that it will adopt from its surroundings whatever it needs to survive. It'll pull like different disparate elements from other movements in order to maximize its own representation and perceived power. And in line with that, like, it seems like right now the Nazi movement is going to be primarily associated with whatever the fuck Andrew Tate represents, which isn't that surprising because he was basically the main character of reactionary politics on Twitter for a while, up until he got fucking arrested and detained and then had his detainment reasserted 4 times over. But I do think it's important to keep track of that stuff. And especially because, like, the shared politics here, the ones that I think are most clear between, say, online neo-Nazis and Adin Ross, I think the main line there is mostly like learning to laugh at other people's suffering. You know what I mean? That's the main thing, more than anything else, more than any shared political belief, because I bet you there are a lot of people in Adin Ross's chat who consider themselves non-racist, who are nonetheless like delighted at the company of Nazis. And it really has to do with the delight at cruelty, or how funny it is to be a free speech warrior who's not cowed by the cucked establishment. And I think that actually overwhelms any other political impetus they might have. This is one of the reasons why I fucking despise South Park. I fucking hate South Park so much, man. The political consequences of establishing to the mainstream the idea that it's funny to be kind of like disaffectedly cruel have been unimaginably bad. Like, because like these kids, and it's mostly kids, they have no, they don't even have the ability to self-check that behavior. You know what I'm talking about? There's not even like an internal process for cutting off that performative cruelty past a point. There's no point where it's like, oh, okay, well, up until this point, I've thought it was funny to be a kind of like disaffected, nothing gets me down, I'll make fun of anything for any reason kind of guy. But here, this is a step too far. because they don't have that process. They don't have that self-check. Which means that, you know, as stupid as it sounds, sometimes the ideological foundation of genocide can literally be like edgy teenagers performatively not caring about other people's feelings, even if those teenagers themselves don't consider themselves to be bigoted people. Ideological bigotry isn't actually necessary. You know what I'm getting at? There are a lot of ways to lead people to the same conclusions. Well, the main reason I'm talking about all of this is because I feel like I need to establish this baseline so people have any fucking idea what I'm talking about when, inevitably, I have more to say about whatever bullshit happens with Kick and Adin Ross. Because I know a lot of people in my audience have no goddamn idea. What's terrifying about this is Adin Ross has a young audience of 14-year-olds. Yeah, Adin Ross's audience is primarily, like, fucking babies. They're like infants, you know? Should not be giving kids that young access to the internet. Do you think actual Nazis were this myopic, or are Ross and Fuentes just particularly dumb? Well, Ross is absolutely particularly dumb. Ross is uniquely stupid. Nick Fuentes isn't stupid, but it has nothing to do with stupidity. If you were trying to move as many people over to the far right as possible, you wouldn't do so by trying to, like, educate millions of young people on the history of, like, Aryan supremacy, teaching them all of the dog whistles and all of the Holocaust denial talking points and blah, blah. Like, that's way too much ideological front-loading for a group of people whose primary characteristic is pretending to not care about things. In reality, you just have to weaponize their apparent not caring about stuff in the right directions, you know? Make them not care about trans people, or not care about blue-haired SJWs, or not care about this, that, or the other, because their performative lack of care there makes it really easy to then go, ah, well, if you don't care, you know what those SJWs do care about? The threat of Nazis. We're not Nazis. We're just a bunch of fun-loving, goofy goobers who like wacky jokes and don't care about cancel culture. If you care about them caring about this, then really you're the SJW. So, and then this is, of course, just a road towards acceptance of those ideologies. The motto of the Italian fascist black shirts was "Me ne frego," which means I don't give a damn, nothing ever changes. Really? I didn't know that. Wow. I guess nothing does really change. Anyway, if you guys were ever wondering why I thought it was so fucking important to develop on rhetorical lines that kind of like bring in young disaffected guys, this would be the reason why. Because, oh my god, it is not like the kinds of people who ardently watch Adin Ross are doing well right now. It's kind of worrying to see all these young people swept up in the politics of idiocy, but at least big YouTubers like Minohar and Critical are against people like Andrew Tate. I like Critical a lot. And yes, some ordinary gamers, Minohar, I remember seeing a Twitter thread from him where he was actually like criticizing Project Veritas. It was really nice. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they're both pretty cool. Yeah. My first interaction with some ordinary gamers was him retweeting a video calling me a pedophile. So I feel like there's been a lot of growth there, you know? Muda has had some sussy takes. Everyone's had some sussy takes. On the whole, what I see from him is distinctly positive now. Do you still read Marx? I read all 3 volumes of Capital every day before falling asleep. I can do it very fast now. Do you think these young men will grow out of this? I mean, some of them will, of course. But that doesn't mean that there's no staying power to that kind of youthful disposition. And you never fall asleep, so? Yeah, that's why I never get any sleep. It's actually me just being a very good theoretician.